So last day we started a new chapter, impedance matching and tuning, and we are considering a complex impedance ZL first, and we have to match it to a characteristic impedance of Z0. Then in the first approach, we are going to use lumped elements like L and C. They are available in SMD form, and in that case we see that we have two circuits. In one case, when RL is more than Z0, then we use the first component as JB near to ZL, and when RL is less than Z0, then the first component it is JX in series. And we also solved a problem using Smith chart and found the values of L and C here. So one trick was that we used the same impedance Smith chart, and then here we plotted the corresponding circles if it is considered as the admittance picture. So this point we have to understand it further, because today I'm going to use another approach. When we have this overlapping Smith chart, so the values of R or X, it goes to infinity here at this point for the impedance picture, and the values of R and X goes to 0 at this point. So since we are overlapping the admittance Smith chart on it, so on the admittance Smith chart also, these two extreme points, it should represent the same thing, right? So that's why in this Smith chart we transform ZL to YL by drawing a circle, that gamma circle, and then we connect by a diameter which is passing through the center point of Smith chart, and where it crosses the other side of that circle, that provides the YL. Now let's say have any impedance problem. So from the beginning we can use the admittance Smith chart. So then let's say this is not there, and it is now a purely admittance problem. So if I can go with this one approach, and also I can rotate it by 180 degree. Then how it looks? If I rotate it by 180 degree, it is the admittance Smith chart. So we see that it looks same as the impedance Smith chart. So the impedance Smith chart itself I can consider as the admittance Smith chart, provided we are not using both impedance and admittance values. This point you have to understand. So if we don't have to deal with both impedance and admittance value, then in fact the impedance Smith chart itself I can consider as the admittance Smith chart, and these values then will directly give me the value of B and Y. Sorry. So we are going to use this concept in the next problem here. Well, so till this point we considered the matching network by using SMD components, inductor and capacitor. Now we are going to use the section of transmission line for impedance matching, and then we call it a single step matching problem. Now before that, let us understand what is a series step and what is a shunt step. So you know that a section of transmission line, let's say open circuited at the far end, then the input impedance can be capacitive or inductive. That depends on its length. If the length of this open circuited transmission line is less than lambda t by 4, or the electrical length is less than 90 degree, then at that frequency input impedance is capacitive. If it is more than that, it is inductive. For short circuited stuff, it is just the opposite. So when the other end is shorted and the electrical length of the stub is less than 90 degree, then the input impedance is inductive. Anyway, so this first diagram, it shows this shunt open stub, and in this second diagram, it represents a microstrip line series stub. So how to determine this is a shunt configuration or a series configuration? So basically, you look at this stub. This is a 1-port device or a 2-port device. In the first one, we see it looks like a 1-port device, and one point that other end it is connected to the hosting transmission line. So then obviously it is coming in parallel at this point as shown in this plot here, in this figure here. But for the second problem, if I separate this U section, then it's a 2-port problem, which comes in between this section. Then this stub, it is represented by a 2-port network, which is coming between point 1 and point 2, and it is in series. The same thing is true for CPW line. For CPW line, sometimes it is really difficult to understand it is series or shunt. So we have to consider the CPW section, how it is oriented. Well, in this first example, these two slots, it forms the CPW section. And if I consider this only upper half, then it looks like 1-port device, which is coming in shunt configuration with the hosting CPW line. Then what is the requirement of the second one? Usually we try to maintain symmetry of the device in all the cases. So it looks like if I compare this situation with microstrip line, it looks like two open stubs connected, one on top side, another one bottom side, something similar to this. So in CPW, if we don't maintain this symmetry, then from this discontinuity, it starts radiating. For microstrip line also we have radiation, but here that problem, it is more compared to microstrip line. So what we will do for CPW line, we try to maintain that symmetry. And we see that this section of CPW, it is coming in shunt with the hosting line. Now for this one, second example, in this case it is a 2-port problem. So it looks like a series stub. So it is represented by a 2-port network. Anyway, now let us go back to the basic matching problem. So for single stub matching, first we transform the real part to Y0, and then we use a shunt stub. We can also use series stub as shown here, but usually we prefer shunt stub. The reason I'm coming to that point. Now once this YL part, its real part, is transformed here to Y0, then the only problem is that we have to cancel the JB part. Let's say at this plane, if it is Y0 plus JB, then in shunt configuration we have to add minus JB. And if I use a series step, then here it is an impedance problem, and once the real part is transformed, then we cancel the imaginary part by adding minus j66. Now for microstrip line, why we prefer shunt configuration? You see here the section of microstrip line we can represent simply by transmission line. But in this case, if I look at the series stub, it is basically a coupled line section, right? So if it is a coupled line section, then we have to model it by its even mode impedance and the odd mode characteristics impedance, Z0E and Z0O, and it becomes complicated. So in most of the cases, we may have to use Coulomb simulator to obtain the proper values. That means the width, gap, and the length. Well, so that's why we try to avoid series stub in microstrip line configuration. So it becomes complicated. Anyway, so let us use the same concept again and solve a problem. So design a single step shunt tuning network for a RC circuit. ZL is given at 2 GHz. It is 60 minus 80 ohm. The port impedance is 50 ohm, and you are asked to provide at least 2 solutions. Well, now which one to use? As I said that we prefer shunt step matching. Let us go ahead with this. So we first transform it to Y0, and then we'll be cancelling out the JB part. Well, now you can use impedance Smith chart and admittance Smith chart together, but since we are mostly interested in the Y value, why don't we start from Y directly? Then we don't have to go to impedance Smith chart at all, and we can start right from impedance help, admittance help. Well, so then the first problem is that you convert ZL to YL. So mathematically you can do it by considering 1 by ZL, that is 1 by 1.2 minus J into 1.6, or you can use this Smith chart also. We know the procedure, ZL to YL. So once we have the YL, we don't have to go back to impedance. So I can use this Smith chart as the admittance Smith chart. So if I do that, then at this point, Y it goes to infinity. You can compare this situation with this one. You see here, we rotated the impedance Smith chart to get the admittance Smith chart. Because I want to overlap it, then the point where R goes to 0 or R goes to infinity, that should remain same for both impedance Smith chart and the admittance Smith chart. Then only we can overlap it. So that is why this admittance Smith chart has been rotated by 180 degree. Now, if I don't need the impedance value at all, then I can use this one as the admittance Smith chart. As I said that if I rotate it, you rotate it by 180 degree, you see, it's the same thing here. But instead of R and X, you have to consider now Y and B. Y goes to infinity and B goes to infinity at this point. Similarly, they go to 0 at this point. Right, so we are following this notation here, this approach. Now this is an admittance Smith chart. So Y goes to infinity here. We have the YL value. Then what we did for the first problem, you check. So we follow a line here, and then we see where it cuts Y equal to Y equal to 1 point. circle. So here we do the same thing. So now y equal to one circle, actually this one, which passes through center, and this y equal to infinite. Now I follow the, here the problem is little different. You see, I am going to transform the real part first. So then I follow the same transmission line of same characteristics impedance. Then the magnitude of gamma is not changing. And we see that it crosses y equal to 1 at this point. And if I keep on continuing, then it is also cutting y equal to 1 circle at this point. So we have two solutions denoted by y1 and y2. So if I go by a distance of d1, we reach y1 point. Here the real part is equal to 1, and the imaginary part I have to find it out by following this circle. It's written here on this scale, and then I need to add negative of that to cancel it out. And now from this, if I move towards generator by a distance of d2, we reach this point y2, and here the susceptance part is different, right? And now again the same thing, I need to add a shunt stub for which it is opposite but equal. Well, so at d1, then this distance, it is, we can read it that lambda scale is also given here. So you read this point value and this point value here, then subtract it, then we can calculate what should be the length of d1. So basically this distance from yl to where you are connecting the shunt stub. Then this point corresponds to 0.065 and this point corresponds to 0.176. So here you remember that we are moving towards generator. So here then follows clockwise direction. Then d1 is coming 0.11 lambda. Similarly d2, note down this value, so it is coming 0.26 lambda. So we have two solutions. And now what about the susceptance values? It is y for at y1 it is j into 1.47, and at y2 this value is minus j 1.47. So I need to cancel it out. Now we'll be using open stub or shorted stub, that is up to you. Let us use short circuited stub. Usually we prefer short circuited stub because from open end we have excitation of surface wave and also radiation from open end. From the shorted end we have issues, but it is much less compared to the open end. So that's why short circuited stub is preferred in microstrip line. Well, so if I now take short circuited stub, then we need to calculate what is the length of this stub, L, right? We are considering the same characteristics impedance. So now L for a short circuited stub, which will provide for the first case minus j 1.47, and for the second case it should be that stub should provide plus j into 1.47. Now how to calculate the stub length? We can use Smith chart again. So we start from short circuit point and then we move towards generator. We start from short circuit point and move towards generator. So where is the short circuit point? Y. So at the short circuit R is 0, Y is infinite. So I have to start from this point then, and now we follow this chart and find out where it is minus J 1.47. It is represented by L1. Then the corresponding stub length from this scale, we can note down it is coming 0.095 lambda. And what about, I have to go all the way to plus side, and we need to find where it is plus J 1.47, and we see here. So then L2, we have to travel a long distance to this point. It is 0.405 lambda. So this is the solution. ZL is represented by this, and now we put the connecting matching network here. Sorry. So solution 1 is this one, solution 2 is this one. I can plot gamma in or magnitude of S11 for both of these two cases. How we can do that? In MATLAB, let's say we have to calculate gamma as Z in minus Z naught by Z in plus Z naught, and plot gamma versus frequency. So if we do that for these two different scenario, then for case 1, it is represented here by blue line, and for case 2, it is black line. We are matching at 2 gigahertz. But what we see for solution 2, the matching bandwidth is less compared to case 1. So it is like a thumb rule. If you take longer length, so the reactance variation is more sharper, and that's why bandwidth is limited. And also it occupies more space. So the first solution not only miniaturized circuit area, it also provides wider bandwidth. But single step problem, single step matching has a problem. What problem? Once implemented, we can't change the matching section. Now let's say a situation where ZL can change. ZL is a function of let's say with time it can change. Then for single stub, we can't tune that type of network, because let's of course we have to keep something tunable here, and let's say we are having a tunable shunt stub. We also have in our lab, microwave lab, that where we can change the length of the stub manually by using your hand. Now that is not enough. Here, if I change ZL, then this first length, which is represented by 0.11 lambda, that might be tunable, and as well as the stub length should be also tunable. Then just by tuning stub length, we can't match all the load. Then what is the solution? There is a technique. It is double stub matching. So for now, we are not going to cover it. So if we have two tunable short circuited stub or open circuited stub, then we can take care of this impedance variation. But again, here also we have a forbidden range, and if ZL or YL falls inside the forbidden range, then we are unable to match. Okay. So for now, we are not going to cover this part. Well, so let us take a few questions first. So till this point, did you face any problem or any confusion? You can switch on your microphone and you can ask me.
Expression for gamma. So you said Z in minus Z naught. Should it not be like ZL minus Z naught by ZL plus Z naught? Like the expression for mod gamma that you said.
Yeah, you are true. So what is ZL in this case? If I consider at this point,
Like at which point?
at the stop plane. So I am looking right here on this plane. Then what is your ZL?
If it is matched, then it will be Z naught, right? Like
Let's say in general, if it is not matched,
okay, then in it will be some impedance transform of ZL, right?
that is the Z in, right, at this
Yeah.
point.
Okay. All right. Okay. 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 Yeah, I get it now. Hmm.
Yes. Any other question? So if you have any other question, you can ask. So for the Smith chart, we have a trick here. As you can see that according to requirement, we are changing our approach. In the first example, last day we solved, we used a overlapped Smith chart where impedance Smith chart and admittance Smith chart, they are overlapped, even though we did not show this admittance Smith chart here. So that's why we use this 180-degree rotated view. Okay, and when we are overlapping, we can't change the R value or Y value, X value or B value. So that's why we have had to rotate this one by 180 degree. But here, in this example, we don't need impedance value. We are directly doing with the admittance one. So instead of rotation, then if I further rotate it, you see it resembles with the impedance Smith chart. So impedance Smith chart itself I can consider as the admittance Smith chart. Only thing, instead of R and X, now Y and B go to infinity. Okay, so depending on then the requirement, you can change it. Next, water wave transfer. Yes.
Sir, so in that case, if we had to consider the constant reactance circle, then what would we consider?
Yeah, so here we are dealing only with admittance problem. So now if you want to solve with both impedance and admittance, so better you use last day's approach, how we did here. You see this circle which passes through the center and r equal to infinity. That is for the impedance, r equal to one circle. Now on the same Smith chart, if I want to draw 1 plus j circle for admittance, then I have to rotate it by 180 degree. That's why we had to draw one more circle here, which passes through this point and this point. Well, so next topic is the water transformer, and the basic things already we learned. Here we are going to discuss about its bandwidth also. Here, what we do, let's say we have a ZL. Now till previous problem, we considered complex ZL. Here, now we are considering a real value of ZL, no X part or no B part. Then only you can use quarter wave transform. Now, if ZL is real, we put a matching section. For this one, characteristics impedance is different, and we need to find out what should be the characteristics impedance of this part. Well, it has to be matched with Z naught, so that looking from Z naught, Z in should be Z naught. Then For this network, we can calculate what is Z in. You use the formula Z naught, then ZL plus JZ naught tan theta by Z naught plus JZL tan theta. But here, since we are using this section in between, instead of Z naught, now we have to consider Z1 of the transformation. So Z1 and load is ZL, then JZ1 tan theta by Z1 plus JZL tan theta. Now, if I put theta equal to 90 degree, then Z1 simplifies to square root of Z0 into Z. In this point, you also learn in EM theory. Now, what about the input reflection coefficient at any arbitrary frequency? Because I want to also see what is the bandwidth of this matching network. Well, as I said, that for practical purpose, not that always we need a perfect matching or gamma equal to 0. Sometimes they will specify, okay, if the reflected power is less than 5%, that should be enough for our application. Then how to find out the bandwidth or the range of frequency over which this reflection is less than 5%. So how to proceed? We can find out gamma in general, then you have to calculate Z in, and now use the definition of gamma, Z in minus Z naught by Z in plus Z naught. So if you do that, please do it in your room. And then finally, I'm just writing the final expression here. Then magnitude of gamma, it comes like this. It is valid for all the frequency, not just at design frequency. Now at design frequency, if you put theta equal to 90 degree, then it is 0. And of course, you have to use that Z1 value is square root of Z0 into Z. Then for a bandwidth which is defined as that reflection is less than magnitude of gamma m, that is the given value. So if I say it should be less than 5%, then magnitude of gamma m, it becomes 0.05. Then corresponding delta theta, so instead of gamma versus frequency, we are using in theta domain. Theta is proportional to frequency. We consider theta is equal to beta L. So that means theta is proportional to frequency. And at the design frequency, theta is equal to pi by 2. So at a lower angle means lower frequency, and higher angle means at higher frequency. Then the bandwidth, it is given by 2 into pi by 2 minus theta. This derivation is given in DM Pojar's book. I am not repeating here. You can check it. Okay, so this is the bandwidth of a quarter wave transformer. Now, let's say I need a wideband matching network. So not that always the application is over narrow band. Here it is one example. So I want S11 over, let's say, whole X band, 8 to 12 gigahertz. It should be less than 5%. Then how to proceed? There are several techniques, and let us learn at least one of them. So before that, we have to learn something new. That is theory of small reflections. Then we can proceed to that case. Well, so in time domain, what actually happens if I send a pulse? So we are considering a matching network represented by Z2 here and electrical length theta at the given frequency, and always we consider real value only for this type of problem. Okay, what happens if ZL is complex? I'm coming to that point later. So ZL, let's say it's real, and I am using a matching section in between this Z1 and ZL in general. Now, let's say you are connecting one RF source at this point and you just switched it on, and now you are looking at different values, how it is propagating the pulse. So you see, when the pulse it reaches this first junction, it still can't sense ZL, right? So everything will be determined by Z2 only. It says here that it is propagating through Z1, and then at this junction suddenly it sees a different impedance, Z2. Then this reflection, first reflection from this impedance step, let's say it is gamma 1. Then how to find out the value of gamma 1? This is Z2 minus Z1 by Z2 plus Z1. Let us use a different term for this gamma. This is not the overall gamma. This gamma 1, it is from the first junction only, and it is a transient situation. Well, so we call it partial reflection, and this gamma, it represents the overall reflection. Okay, a little bit. Let me go to full mode. Okay, now you can see it properly. So at this junction, then we call it partial reflection in time domain. Now a part will be reflected back to the source and a part will be transmitted. And the transmitted part, it is from port 1 to port 2. Then it is represented by T21, right? T21 at this one. So we can also represent by this partial reflection and transmission by this diagram. So a part is reflected back, which is defined by gamma 1, and a part is transmitted to Z2. Now it propagates through Z2. As it propagates forward, then we have only phase delay. As we learned for lossless network, we don't have attenuation. Now at the second junction, then when it reaches, it now senses ZL, and again a part is reflected back towards source and a part is absorbed. The part which is coming back from this junction, that is represented by partial reflection coefficient gamma 3. Then how to determine the value of gamma 3? This is with respect to Z2 and ZL. So ZL minus Z2 by ZL plus Z2. And also, okay, so now it is coming back here and it sees this junction once more. Well, so as it travels back and forth, then its amplitude is also decreasing, right? So at this junction, now we have one more reflection here. A part is coming back to the transmitter. It is defined by the transmission coefficient now from port 2 to port 1. So P12. And the reflection coefficient gamma 2, let's see. Now we see gamma 2, it is just in opposite direction, but at the same junction. So this is then Z1 minus Z2 by Z1 plus Z2. So that is gamma 2 is equal to minus gamma 1. And it keeps on going, right? And we can also determine the value of transmission coefficient T21, that is equal to 1 plus gamma 1. We are just using the definition. So if I put the values, it is coming twice Z2 by Z1 plus Z. Similarly, T12, it is coming twice Z1 by Z1 plus Z. This is for a single matching network. Now, let us expand it. We want to calculate overall gamma. So it is the overall effect because of gamma 1, then T12 overall effect. and as it keeps on going, finally it keeps on decreasing, and finally it becomes 0. So then what about the overall reflection coefficient? So gamma, that is equal to gamma 1 plus, okay, so the first component coming out as gamma 1 plus, now T21, it comes here, then this part we represent by a phase change e to the power minus j theta. So T21 into e to the power minus j theta. Here we have a reflection of gamma 3. Then into gamma, again into e to the power minus j theta. Now a part coming here into T12. So then how it looks? T12, T21, gamma 3, and 2 times e to the power minus j theta, e to the power minus 2 j theta. What about the next term? We just keep on going. So then again it is multiplied by the reflection coefficient here, gamma 2. Oh, sorry, here I forgot. So gamma 2, then again multiplied by gamma 3 and T21 and T1 and come back. So here T1 to T21, gamma 3 square gamma 2 e to the power minus 4j. So we have a series basically. Well, so we can represent it in short form, then gamma 1 plus T1 to T21 gamma 3, we take common this term, then what is the remaining term? Summation over n equal to 0 to infinity gamma 2n gamma 3n e to the power minus twice jn. Check. Okay, so we could represent it by a series then. Well, now as we go forward in time, then its amplitude keeps on decreasing. You know this relationship, n equal to 0 to infinity summation over x to the power n, we can write it, we can represent it by 1 minus x when magnitude of x is much less than 1. Now we use this relationship here, then here x is what? Gamma 2, gamma 3 e to the power minus twice j theta. So we use this relationship here, and then we see that gamma, okay, gamma 2 we can put that is equal to minus gamma 1. Here we did already, you see. Gamma 2, it is equal to minus gamma 1. For the T21, we can represent in terms of gamma 1. Then T12, we can represent in terms of gamma 2, that is in terms of gamma 1. So we use this relationship here, and finally it is defined by then gamma 1 and gamma 3. We check overall reflection coefficient, that is finally represented by gamma 1 and gamma 3. And of course we have that phase change because of that matching section in between. Now we can further simplify it. If I consider that the discontinuities, these are small, so that means reflection coefficient value is small, then let's say from 1 it is gamma 1 is 0.05, gamma 3 is 0.05. So if we multiply further, we can assume gamma 1 gamma 3 equal to 0. So if we use that in this expression, then overall reflection in terms of the partial reflection, it comes gamma 1 plus gamma 3 into e to the power minus twice j theta. So what we tried to do, we tried to represent overall reflection by individual by the partial reflections from individual junctions. This is for a single section discontinuity, like a quarter wave transformer. Now how to proceed? Okay, so usually for passive components, for most of the passive components, If we use many of them in parallel or in series, depending on what type of components actually you are using, so bandwidth increases. So instead of a single section, we'll see later, if we can design a multi-section impedance transformer, then bandwidth improves. Well, that's why actually we are trying to develop the theory required for multi-section transformer. Well, so in the previous section, we have just one section. Now we consider multiple sections. So the first section is Z1 electrical length theta, second section Z2 electrical length theta, and so on. We have n number of sections. Sorry, according to DM Porter's, yeah, n number of sections. But they are of equal electrical length. It's for simplicity. Then how we define individual partial reflection coefficient? For the first junction, it is Z1 minus Z0 by Z1 plus Z0. For the second junction, Z2 minus Z1 by Z2 plus Z0. Z2 plus Z1. Then for this nth junction at the load end, it is ZL minus Zn by ZL plus Zn. Well, so then what about the overall reflection coefficient? Well, we are going to use this property considering small discontinuities. This assumption is valid for multi-section case actually. So we, in one step, we don't have to go to ZL. We have many steps to reach ZL. Then the partial reflection coefficient value becomes small actually. Then we can use this notation. So check, it is defined by gamma 1 plus the next section, gamma 3 e to the power minus twice z. So we use the same notation here. Then overall gamma, it is gamma naught plus from the first section gamma 1 e to the power twice j theta, then plus gamma 2 e to the power minus 4 j theta, and so on. So the final term, this last one, gamma n e to the power minus twice j n theta. So I am simply using this relationship. It is determined by the first junction and second junction. You check here, this first junction gamma 1 and second junction gamma 3. We are using that notation on. So we can represent overall reflection coefficient by the corresponding partial reflection coefficients defined at the junctions. Now we do some rearranging of the terms. Okay, so we can have different situations. So we want to discuss about that, and we can introduce cos theta sin theta in this. Well, now assume that all the Zn either they increase or decrease monotonically. In most of the cases, actually, that will be the requirement. If ZL is high compared to your Z0, then you have to keep on increasing this Z1, Z2, Z3 like that. If ZL is low, then just the opposite. So then we can use this approximation or this assumption that all Zn either increase or decrease, not that some of them increasing and then some of them decrease. Well, and also we assume ZL is real. Then from symmetry, okay, so we have one more assumption, otherwise it is symmetrical with respect to midpoint, so that this is assumption, so that gamma naught is equal to gamma n, then gamma 1 is equal to gamma n minus 1, gamma 2 equal to gamma n minus 2, and so on. So it is symmetrical with respect to the midpoint of the transformer unit. Well, then we can write down gamma, overall gamma, from this port, that we take e to the power minus j capital N theta common, then we can now write gamma naught and gamma n, these two terms together. So we have a pair gamma naught, gamma n. So we took e to the power minus j n theta common. So then it is gamma naught e to the power j plus j n theta plus e to the power minus j n theta. Similarly, gamma 1 and gamma n minus 1 here you consider. So it is gamma 1 into j into capital N minus 2 theta plus this term and so on. But here we have a problem. If the total number of sections is even, then most probably we can represent it like this. But if the total number of sections is odd, then the last term we don't have, for the last term we don't have any remaining term from the pair. So we have to consider these two cases separately. In one case n is odd, in another case n is even. So I am rewriting the expressions here, the same expression, just copying here. Now when n is odd, then the last term, well, when n is odd, we started from 1. Then last term we see it is n minus 1 by 2 e to the power j theta plus e to the power minus j theta. But when n is even, then the last term is gamma n by 2. We don't have any more term remaining which can be paired with this. So we have two different situations. Then the reflection coefficient for n equal to even, we can write like this. And for n equal to odd, we can write like this. So we are using the e to the power j theta plus e to the power minus j theta by 2 equal to cos theta u. We are using that relationship here. Then it becomes gamma naught cos n theta, and we have a factor of 2 which is multiplied here. Well, so now we are going to utilize this concept for the next part. Now I am coming to actual multi-section transformer. Okay, so we'll be learning, there are many different types. We'll be learning just one of them. Binomial multi-section transformer. So different transformers, they have different types of response. Sometimes we use binomial function, sometimes we use Chebyshev function, elliptical function, so different sets of polynomial basically. And then if you plot overall gamma, so in different cases it looks different. So here is one example actually. Well, I'm coming to that point later. So let us go with the binomial multi-section transformer. So if I compare responses among different types of multi-section transformers, then the response for magnitude of S11, if I plot magnitude of S11 versus frequency, it provides maximally flat response. You see, magnitude of gamma over the bandwidth, matching bandwidth, actually we have a ripple. This is for Chebyshev case. But for binomial case, it almost flat. N represents the number of matching sections. As you keep on increasing them, then we are having wider and wider bandwidth, and it looks flat. So this is the advantage of binomial multi-section transformer. Provides maximally flat response. Now with this further, n-section transformer is designed by setting the first n-1 derivatives of gamma theta to 0 at the center frequency. Otherwise, we don't have the flat response. You see here, if we take derivative at the design frequency. So you look at the frequency scale, it is normalized frequency. F by f not equal to 1 at the design frequency. Okay, so here nth derivative is 0 with respect to theta, of course. Along x, we are considering theta. Now, okay, this is actually assumption. So such type of response can be obtained if the reflection coefficient, it has a form of this a constant multiplied by 1 plus e to the power minus twice j theta whole to the power n. Well, so this assumption, whatever we made in this first 2 points, so it can be achieved if the gamma theta, it takes a form represented by this relationship, where a is a constant and theta, it represents the length of any given section. We are considering each section of equal width. Well, now we see then what is the magnitude of gamma theta. So how to calculate magnitude of gamma theta, magnitude of right hand side part. So directly we can't do it here. So better we do some we use some trick here. We take e to the power minus j theta common, then when it is coming out of this bracket, so it becomes e to the power minus j theta into overall power n. So magnitude of a e to the power minus j theta overall power n, and the remaining part here inside then e to the power j theta plus e to the power minus j theta. We can express like this. Now magnitude of e to the power minus j theta whole to the power n, then this is the phase part only. If I take magnitude, it would be 1. So then what is remaining? This part, it is twice cos theta. So 2 to the power n, magnitude of a, and cos theta, its magnitude to the power n. Now depending on theta, we can further simplify it. If theta equal to pi by 2, then cos theta, it becomes 0. So gamma theta is 0, right? So at the design frequency, if I take theta equal to 90 degree, then at the design frequency, what we see, magnitude of gamma theta, it becomes 0. And what about the second one? For maximally flat response, that innate derivative should be 0. So if it is cos theta is 0 at the design frequency, keep on taking derivative, all the results will be 0. Well, so you see then theta we have to take 90 degree. Otherwise gamma theta is not 0. 90 degree and its odd multiple, but we want to keep the dimension small, so we are not going to higher values. So we take theta equal to 90 degree. Now theta equal to 90 degree. Then what about the physical length at design frequency? We can represent in terms of lambda. Then lambda, its length L, it should be lambda g by 4. You recall theta is equal to beta into L. So length, it should be lambda g by 4. Now next job, we need to find out what should be the value of A, and then from that we will find out what should be the characteristics impedance of different sections. So that means theta already we know it should be 90 degree. Then what should be this Z1 value, Z2 value, Zn till Zn value? Well, to do that, we need to first calculate what is the value of A. Now to calculate the value of A, let us use the limit f tends to 0. What happened in that case? F tends to 0. So near DC, electrical length is vanishingly small, right? For the same transformer, it is, let's say, already you designed, you are going to design at 2.4. So electrical length is 90 degree at 2.4. But now if I go to 0, then electrical length, it is vanishingly small. So I can assume theta is 0 basically. Then gamma for at theta equal to 0, we put the value here, then what we see, it is 2 to the power n into a, and that is equal to then ZL minus Z naught by ZL plus Z naught. How come ZL minus Z naught? Even though we have n number of sections in between ZL and Z naught, because theta is 0, the overall length of your transformer unit, it is 0 when f tends to 0. So then it is determined by the extreme two sections, ZL minus Z naught by ZL plus Z. So what we see then, the value of A, it is determined by the load impedance value and the characteristics impedance of the feed network and number of matching section. How many you are choosing, it is up to you, capital N. You can take 2, 3, 5, 10, depending on actually requirement. So we have the value of A. Now let us expand the first term here, this one. Okay, we are going to find out the value of characteristics impedances. So let us expand the first term, then gamma theta, it's given. So we can represent it by a series, A n equal to 0 to capital N, then factorial Cn e to the power minus twice Jn theta. So C small n to capital N. So then Cn, it is actually the binomial coefficient, and from this it takes the name binomial multisection transformer. Then we can write this term as factorial capital N divided by capital N minus n factorial, then factorial small n. Well, so if I look carefully here, we have some relationships. You see, C small n capital N, that means this one, that is equal to C capital N minus n to n. If I put here small n is equal to capital N minus n, then we have the same term basically. Now what about C0, the first term, C0n? So C0, so that means small n is 0, factorial 0, 1. So it is becoming 1. C1n, C1n, if I put the value, then it is factorial n divided by factorial n minus n, small n factorial. So all other remaining part cancel out, we have only capital N. The same thing is true for Cn minus 1, right? So we have these relationships from this binomial coefficients. Okay. Now we use that relation which we derive here for multi-section transformer. Okay, we are going to utilize now this relationship. So we can express or we can equate this with this term. You see, as we did here, this term, right? Now, what should be the value of gamma n for any section, gamma small n? So that is represented by A C small n. Then for small n, gamma n, what is the definition of gamma n? This is the partial reflection coefficient at the nth junction. So you use that ZL minus Z by ZL plus Z naught. So then the Zn plus 1 minus Zn by Zn plus 1 plus Zn. Now for small gamma n, we can represent this term by logarithmic relationship. You know this relationship, ln of x, ln this base e. So ln of x, that is nearly equal to 2 into x minus 1 by x plus 1 when x close to unity or the difference x minus 1 goes to 0, then we can represent it by this. So if I use this relationship x minus 1 by x plus 1, x minus 1 by x plus 1, that is equal to then half of ln x. Here we are using that relationship, half of ln zn plus 1 by z. Well, so now we use this relation above. So ln zn plus 1 by n, this is equal to twice gamma n from this one, twice gamma n, and this relationship now I'm using here. So it is twice a c small n capital N. This is for any arbitrary small n, right? Now you put the values here. So 2 into 2 to the power minus n zl minus z naught by zl plus z naught. We are putting the value of a. Already we did here. A equal to 2 to the power minus n zl minus z naught by zl plus z naught. So we are putting that value here. Then we can represent it again using that logarithmic relationship. It is 2 to the power minus n cn ln of zl minus zl by z. Well, so at least we have a relationship between two consecutive networks which is directly related to the extreme condition. ZL is the final load and it has to be matched with Z0. So these are the extreme impedances, and we could express the impedance ratio of two consecutive sections by this. Next, how to solve it? We have to use some computer program. Maybe you can use MATLAB, and then depending on capital N, you can obtain a table. What are the required values? Let's say Z0 is 50 ohm. Then we can obtain a chart like this. For n equal to 2, what should be Z1 by Z0, Z2 by Z0. For n equal to 3, n equal to 4, n equal to, and so on. Let's say we are taking n equal to 6. So how many sections we have then? Z1 to Z6. So here we are taking capital N equal to 6. So we have Z1, Z2, Z3 till Z6. Now theta is 90 degree already we have. Then we use this relationship and calculate starting from Z0 equal to 50 ohm. We calculate the values. Then you see Z1 by Z0, it should be this, Z2 by Z0, it should be this, Z. So we have a table for different ZL by Z0 values. Well, so previously, let's say it is not new thing. This technique is more than now 70 years old actually. So previously you also used tables to calculate log, if you recall. Not in your time. People previously used tables when computer or calculator was not there. So this chart was useful that time. So now we can just, it's a 2-line program in MATLAB. Now what about the bandwidth? Delta F by delta naught. So we can use the same approach. We have the expression of gamma right here. General expression of gamma theta. So we can use that relationship and you can actually plot it, and from that you don't have to derive it. I'm just mentioning the value here. So delta F by F naught, so over which reflection coefficient remain less than a specified value of gamma m. It is given by this. Let us take one example, numerical example. Design a 3-section binomial transformer to match a 50 ohm load to a 100 ohm line, and calculate the bandwidth for m equal to 0.05. So reflected power is less than 5%. Plot the reflection coefficient. So without MATLAB, Well, for n equal to 3, we use this relationship, this last one, this is important. We use that relationship and we find Z1, Z2, Z3. Yeah, here. Z1, Z2, Z3. Z1 is 91.7, Z2 70.7, Z3 54.5. What about the electrical lengths? It's 90. And the plot, it looks like this. So it continued actually till 5, n equal to 1 to 3. As you increase number of sections, then matching bandwidth improves. N equal to 1 is nothing but quarter wave transformer, right? So you see, if ZL is real, only then we can use this relationship. Chebyshev, we are not going to use it. So here you see the first and how we started the binomial one. By assuming gamma theta, it takes the form of this. So instead of this, now we can represent it by using different polynomials. So you can use Chebyshev polynomial, you can use elliptical polynomial, and the corresponding graph will be different. Well, so I'm not going to discuss about this. For Chebyshev, we have a ripple, and the advantage is that it can, using the same number of sections, we can have a much wider bandwidth. You see, for most of the applications, since gamma m will be specified, so we'll try to keep this ripple, peak value of ripple below that value. Then it's done. But for binomial, we don't have any such control. This is the problem. Okay, next is the tapered matching. Okay, before tapered matching section, let us take a few questions. So you can switch on your microphone.
So when we were calculating gamma, for example, in the multiple reflection case, we took only Z2. That is because we were considering it at that point. But in the quarter wave transformer, we took the Z in instead of Z of the quarter wave transformer. So why is that so?
For all the cases, we are considering Z in only. You see, for quarter wave transformer, actually we have just one junction at the left hand side, no?
And but sir, in that we had considered Zn, but in this theory of small reflections, we have only considered Z2, as you had said that at this junction of Z1 and Z2, we cannot see ZL.
No. Okay, you are missing a point. You see, that's why I wrote here it is transient case. You check transient case. So you are connecting RF source and you switched on. Now, how the EM power it propagates? So when it's following, let's say Z1 first, and then with time it first see the junction impedance step Z1 to Z2. So that point there is a ZL or not, or Z2, how long this is, it does not know anything, right? That
Yes,
electromagnetic wave, it just faces this junction. We are considering this one only.
yes, sir.
Now it travels further. Then it sees we have another junction here. We have another reflection and transmission here. And that keeps on going. And overall reflection gamma, that in steady state. So
Yes,
before
sir.
this point, what we did actually, that gamma. So here today we introduced something new. It is tangent case. So
Yes,
now
sir.
then overall gamma, it is actually sum of all these waves which is coming towards your RF generator.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
That's why we use this term. You see, I wrote it in blue. It is partial reflection coefficient defined only at the junction for the pulse.
Yes, sir. And also, sir, in this case, we did not consider the reflection from the generator. Like we have only taken
No.
gamma to.
Then you are considering the whole microwave system. I'm just here trying to model the impedance transformer section.
Okay, sir. Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Okay, so now if you want to model the whole microwave system, yes, then source becomes a part of this. You have to consider that also.
So there's one other question, and it may not be related. So I wanted to ask,
Sure.
so like we have a generator with impedance Z0, and then we generally have a feeding line of matching impedance Z0.
Yes.
Sir, the length of that matching line, we do not consider it at all. Sir, in fact, when I had plotted the S parameters for matching uh, for quarter wave transformer in
Hmm.
MATLAB. So, sir, when I consider the S parameters
Hmm.
using that matched feed line and without using that matched feed line, then the answer is exactly same. Sir,
Then your step is wrong.
sir, uh,
What you did? Can you clarify a little more?
sir, there was a load ZL which was not equal to my generator
Real,
load Z0.
real jet,
Yes,
ZL.
sir, real. Real. And then sir I had calculated the Z of the quarter wave transformer using root Z0 uh, ZL.
Yes.
Now sir I can calculate the uh, S parameters of like I calculated the S parameters considering only the generator, the quarter wave transformer and the load.
No, no, no. You see, first, these are two-port problem or one-port problem.
So two port.
How come? You are going to match it. So you are looking from your source towards your load through the matching network.
Uh,
It is a one-port
yes,
problem. You have
yes,
to
sir.
plot S11 gamma, just like this one.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Now there is a different situation. I want to calculate how much power is delivered to load.
Yes,
Then
sir.
it is a two-port problem, right?
Yes, sir.
Now there is a trick. Uh, you have to understand this point. So how we define S parameter? What is the reference impedance?
Uh,
That is the system impedance Z0,
yes, sir.
right? So when you are plotting S parameter in simulator, it is always considering that Z0. It is not considering ZL at L, its effect. Understood?
Yes, sir.
So that's why you are not getting any change. So basically you are plotting S parameters of a transmission line of characteristics impedance square root of Z0 into ZL.
Yes, sir.
So that is not a matching problem. Understood? Why not? Or, or you can ask further.
Uh,
You see, in this example,
yes, sir.
I can consider the middle part. I have a transmission line section here. This one is a transmission line section. Okay, let me just little modify it. Okay, what is the characteristic impedance? It is Z2, right?
Yes, sir.
Characteristic impedance Z. Now you plot it S parameter. We can do that, but that is not a matching problem. You are just considering a section of transmission line, and you are plotting it. You did not consider the effect of Z0, ZL connecting them, right? It's just a section of transmission line, so it has nothing to do with this matching.
Yes, sir. Sir, what if I calculate the ABCD parameters of this line Z2 and then convert it
Again, the
into
same thing.
S
You
parameters?
calculate S parameter, ABCD, or it can be also Y. Z, H parameter, anything, but you are doing for a section of transmission line only. But for
Okay, sir.
matching problem, it is something else. I don't want any reflection from this junction. So whatever power I am delivering to this, it should absorb that.
Yes, sir.
So then we have to plot gamma basically, or S11. It becomes a single port problem.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, it's good that you are thinking on it.
Okay, sir. Thank you, sir.
Any other? So here we have used many mathematical relationship. Well, so the next part, then we have so many different matching techniques. Which one is the best? Well, so before that, let us discuss about one more thing. So in this case, what we are doing, you see, till this point, we consider n number of matching sections, like in binomial. So basically an extension of this problem. Now how to select Z1, Z2 to Zn? So for that we are choosing different polynomial values, Chebyshev binomial and others. Now we consider that instead of varying them in step, I am continuously varying the characteristics impedance. Then we call it tapered matching section, Z0 to Zn. It can be done easily in microstrip line. In microstrip line, you know that if I change W, then characteristics impedance changes. For the given substrate, if I increase W, characteristics impedance decreases, and vice versa. So we have a closed form expression for the characteristics impedance, how to find out in DM Pojar's book. Online calculator is also available. So then this approach here, it's little different. Instead of using multiple sections, we are continuously varying this characteristics impedance. Now how to model it mathematically? What we can do, like the differentiation integration concept, which you learned in standard 10 or 11. Well, so we consider a small section of delta z, length delta z, and over that, which is vanishingly small, and over that I consider the characteristics impedance remains same. Left side is z, right side, sorry, this section is delta plus z plus delta z, next section z plus twice delta z, and so on. So where delta z is vanishingly small, tends to 0. So using that approach, I'm not again going to derive it. Finally, it's just binomial. One approach is sufficient for UG class. But what else? If we use different approaches, then how the results differ? We want to learn that, and you should memorize that. Well, so if I use this tapered section, then using that approach, now we can have different type of tapering. We can have exponential tapering, we can have triangular tapering, so characteristics impedance continuously increasing, then decreasing, or maybe it's decreasing first and then increasing. Okay, so it's symmetrical with respect to midpoint. So different types of tapering, and they have different advantages. Well, now which one is the best? Okay, I want to compare all these different techniques. Which one is the best? So it was done by one engineer. According to his name, it is known as Klopfenstein taper. Klopfenstein taper that provides the widest bandwidth. Well, so for a given tapered plane, it guarantees that you will be having highest impedance bandwidth We call it matching bandwidth, input impedance matching bandwidth, or simply impedance bandwidth. So this Klopfenstein tapering, we are not going to derive it, even though it is very old technique, but it's still there, and we don't have anything better than this till this point. Okay, so he actually started from Chebyshev transformer, and then finally he derived the expression. So it yields the shortest matching section. Now let me compare different section. So this is the required characteristic impedance, how it varies with length. You see, for different tapering, we have exponential, triangular, and the Klopfenstein, it sits in between linear and exponential. So some online calculator also available for Klopfenstein transformer. If you put the extreme values and define the length, let's say electrical length, then it will give you the values. Or closed form expression is also available for Klopfenstein. Now, if I plot gamma in theta domain, okay, so then it looks like this. You see, for Klopfenstein, you look at the ripple values, it is minimum among all this. So this is a solution for gamma m less than 0.02. The target was gamma m should be less than 0.02. Well, so that's all from impedance matching section. Well, so let us discuss one vital point that we never discussed. So for all these broadband matching network, we consider load impedance as real, right? Now, only for the first problem, when we use Smith chart, we consider load impedance is complex, but it provides solution only at a given design frequency. What happens if ZL is complex and you are asked to design a wideband matching network? The answer is that there is no general procedure available till date. So if you are interested, you can work on it, and it's a very vital problem, and we still face that. You see, matching network we need everywhere, not just at microwave frequencies or millimeter wave frequencies or terahertz frequencies. It is everywhere, even at your kilohertz frequencies, megahertz frequencies. When you design, let's say, any IC, so it is in analog circuit, in your VLSI, in RFIC, in MMIC, everywhere you need impedance matching network. Let's say you are designing an amplifier, mixer, any component, you have to design this impedance matching network. So if you can derive that relationship, general relationship, so it will be a very good work actually, but still this problem is there. We don't have any general solution when ZL is complex. Well, so what we do, we use actually computer simulation. No analytical solution is available. So till this point, do you have any question? We have under 20 minutes.
So can we go back to that odd and even number of n, in which, like, you know, like what was the difference exactly? I think
yeah, for the multi-section. So here you see the he started from D'Ampujer. I'm just following D'Ampoujer's notation. He started from gamma naught for this problem. In the previous case, actually, he used gamma 1 for the first junction. Anyway, so for n number of networks, now if n is odd and n is even, then how to write the expression? Well, what we are trying to do, we are writing them in pair so that we can use the cos theta relationship. You know that e to the power j theta plus e to the power minus j theta by 2 equal to cos theta. No? So then we can use this relationship. So that's why we want to express them in pair. Now, if n is even and if n is odd, we have two different situations. When n is even, then we have a middle term for which we can't find any pair, which is half gamma n by 2. But if n is odd, in that case, all the terms can be paired, and we can represent all of them by cos theta. So you see, it depends on that odd even definition. It depends. The first one you are starting from gamma 1 or gamma 0. So if you start from gamma 0, then we have this relationship. For even, we have one odd term remaining, and if n is odd, then all of them can be paired.
Okay, thank you, sir. And the final expression that we like started to find out, like a into 1 plus e to the power minus j theta to the power n,
This
that
one.
was yeah, e to the power, yeah, this one, e to the minus 2 j theta to the power n. So this is, and like this is we got from somewhere, or like just we say that, you know, we can obtain a
No,
response from.
we say yes. So there can be some other possible solutions. So here the target is that so that we can use this relationship, binomial coefficients. So it takes the name from here, binomial multi-section transformer. So whatever you take, it has to satisfy this basic condition. Okay, so then the solution, it takes this form. So who did it for the first time, it did it intuitively.
All right, thank you, sir.
Any other question? You remember
Sir,
this term.
the
So
bandwidth,
this, yes.
sir, the bandwidth expressions you showed, that is for the minus TDP bandwidth, right?
No, 3 dB. Okay, switch off. So here, every time we are defining a gamma m value for this example, for a specified gamma m, you see that 3 dB, that is a very vague term. Okay, first of all, you tell me that 3 dB bandwidth concept you used in analog circuit, in basic electronics. So that 3 dB in terms of voltage, current, or power, or you can do it whatever you like. What is your answer?
Generally, that is the half of the maximum power.
It is always with respect to power. Always. Okay. Now, let us take some application example. Your Wi-Fi band, 2.4 to 2.485. We have 85 megahertz bandwidth. You are asked to design an amplifier, or you are asked to design a matching network, or it can be anything actually. It can be a filter also. Now you are defining 3 dB bandwidth as 85 megahertz. Then what will happen? So let us consider one amplifier. Let me draw it here. Amplifier gain versus frequency. It looks like this, and this is your 3 dB point, and this is your 85, giving at least 85 megahertz bandwidth. Can you use it in practical system? We are doing so many mathematics and engineering issues, means learning engineering approaches to minimize loss. And in the design itself, you are assuming at the band edge you are wasting 50% power. Can you do it? Even for your mobile phone, let's say. So here near to band edge, that means you are assuming 50% power is gone from your two-port component. So 50% power is gone from your amplifier, 50% power is gone from your filter, and so on. So altogether, at the band edge, it's nothing almost remaining. So can you define 3 dB bandwidth for practical applications? What do you say?
No.
You understood the problem, right?
Yes, sir.
So in basic electronics, actually that means you did not know any other thing. It was the first subject which was introduced to you. So that's why sometimes to understand the bandwidth concept, you use 3 dB bandwidth. But for practical application, we never use 3 dB bandwidth definition because of this reason. So what we do, this requirement, it comes from system engineer who is finally calculating the spec, we call technical specifications for all the components. Also, he will specify then what should be the maximum amplitude variation within the bandwidth. For example, typically for wideband amplifier, not narrowband, this 2.4 to 2.485, it's an example of narrowband circuit. For wideband, typically for amplifier, we consider maximum 1 dB variation. Then for reflection coefficient, let's say it's less than 5% power is reflected over the whole band. Then you need to specify some value. And this bandwidth is defined with respect to gamma m. Okay, so that first year concept, some of them actually now you have to forget. Now you are at advanced stage. So those were too simplified. Anyway, any other question?
So the multi-section one couldn't be practically executed, right? Because of the attenuation present in the line.
No, why not?
So
You
we have
see,
not considered attenuation at all.
yeah, of course. But microstrip line, let's say, or coaxial cable, so the attenuation is not that great. You are not using a single wire for microwave signal. Okay, so if you look coaxial cable, typically attenuation is less than 0.1 meter, 0.1 dB per meter at microwave frequencies. Okay, so with connectors and other things for a 3-feet cable, total loss can be less than 1 dB for a good quality cable till 30 gigahertz. So I'm considering 3 feet. And here how much? It will be in centimeter maximum. It depends on, of course, frequency. So loss is not that important. So that's why actually we can use all this theorem, whatever we learn by assuming lossless network. In all these cases, we are considering lossless network. So in fact, what are the design steps actually? If you go through design steps for any component, it can be amplifier, filter, impedance transformer. So we use finally the full wave simulator to get the actual layout, which will solve actual Maxwell situations and consider all the discontinuities and other things. But to do that, you have to put some initial value to your simulator, right? Some WL you have to define. So that we first go through this transmission line analysis and calculate the values and then put it there. Let me give you one example. That impedance transformer you already designed, quarter wave transformer. Now, what you did, you used the relationship you learned from lossless transmission line theory. Theta should be 90 degree, then the characteristics impedance is square root of Z0 into ZL, right? So for the given problem, then use most probably the online calculator to obtain the dimension of the matching section of microstrip line. What should be W of that matching section? What should be the length of the matching section, right? So at 2.4 gigahertz, if design frequency is 2.4 gigahertz, then from online calculator you put theta equal to 90 degree at 2.4, it will give you what is the length. Put the value of required Z naught, let's say it's 35.35 ohm, then put the value, it will give you W. After that, you do optimization, tuning using your full wave simulator. Any other question?
Sir, when we move from one Z0 to Z1 in bilinear multi-transformer line, means there are certain discontinuities, right? So
Yes,
wouldn't
yes.
that cause radiation surface wave excitations at all?
Yeah, of course we face problem, but it is not means that great. Otherwise, microwave system would not be possible at all in PCB technology. But starting from your phone, your laptop, everywhere, people using PCB technology only. That loss is not that great if you choose the substrate dimension properly. Now you already learned about physics. For example, let's say you are asked to design something at Ka band. Okay. So, well, some issues. Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, sir.
Am I audible?
Yes, sir.
Hello, am I audible?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So let's say you are asked to design. So I forgot the point which we were discussing about loss. What was the question?
Sir,
Oh
the
yes,
discontinuity.
yeah, effect of discontinuity, right? Now let's say you are asked to design something over let's say K under Ku band 12 to 18 gigahertz in this frequency range. Now you have to minimize surface wave and other things, so you can't use, let's say, a substrate with dielectric constant 3.55 and thickness of 1.6 millimeter at this frequency range. So you have to go for at least 0.508 or less than that thickness, substrate thickness. So that point actually you have to consider. If you want to design an antenna, then requirement is different. So accordingly, you have to choose the substrate properly. If you can choose substrate properly, then the effect of discontinuities are there, of course, but it is not that great. And some of the discontinuities actually they create more problem. It again depends on frequency. At microwave frequency above X band, typically we try to avoid open circuit element, for example. It provides radiation. Usually open stuff, impedance step, cross junction, short circuit, they won't create that much of problem. But the open circuit element will create a problem. And if you use just one or two, you can still tolerate it. But if you have to use more than 10, let's say, you have significant radiation. So this type of some experience is required.
Sir, and when you say tuning, then what exactly means? How much should we move? That how would you define? Means how do you determine it?
Tuning for that variable load, do you mean?
Yes, sir. Means tuning for variable load. Yeah.
Okay, let me share slide first. Yeah, in this example, let's say you are changing the load. It depends on application. It can be anything. The right hand side, it can be a reconfigurable components, let's say, and then the input impedance is changing. You are intentionally changing it, but we need to keep that gamma, that minimum, let's say, below some specified value. So how to do that? If ZL changes, because once this circuit is implemented, we can't change it. Now, tunable short-circuited stuffs are available. Okay, at least in the radar circuit or high-power circuit, they use like that. But in PCB technology, we don't prefer. So this is just a technique, and that's why actually I skipped it, since the application is not that wide. Nowadays, simply we don't use that. Well, so for single step matching, then we can't do it just by tuning the stub length. But for double step matching, we can do it. But even then, we have a forbidden range of impedance, which cannot be matched to 50 ohm. Okay, so tunable impedance matching network, now we do by using tunable components basically. Now, what are the tunable components? Electronically tunable components. We can have, let's say, pin diode. For pin diode, okay, in the device class, did you learn about varactor, pin, and other devices other than BJT and MOSFET? Other than BJT, MOSFET, did you learn about these components which we
No,
use
sir,
for day-to-day?
No, sir, they weren't
Application.
introduced.
Okay.
Is
Anyway, because there are many components which we also use in day-to-day application. For example, in your smartphone and other things. So pin diode, we don't have enough time actually to cover it anyway. So we use it mostly for switching application at microwave frequencies. And there is another property of pin diode that if you change the forward pass current, then its forward pass resistance changes. So we can have a tunable resistance at microwave frequencies. For PN junction also we have similar effect, but we avoid PN junction at microwave frequencies because of its high capacitance, junction capacitance value. So mostly we prefer then Schottky type junction or pin diode, where the middle part it is actually intrinsic semiconductor. Anyway, so we can have variable resistor from pin diode. We can have variable capacitor from a varactor diode. So for a varactor diode or even for any diode, if you for any PN junction in reverse bias condition, if you change the biasing voltage, then the thickness of depression region changes, right? And that thickness, it works like a the separation between two parallel plates. So you can basically tune the junction capacitance by changing the reverse bias voltage. So varactor diode are intentionally made so that this variation is very large, this C variation with applied bias voltage DC, which is DC of course, but it is also sensed by your RF signal. So we use typically this C, variable C or variable R for this variable matching. That usually we don't cover in UC class. The techniques. Any other question? We don't have any variable inductor. Well, so if you don't have any other question, so now.
Sir, this is not a doubt regarding today's lecture. I just wanted to confirm what's the syllabus for Saturday's test.
The impedance matching part is not there. So before that, what we did, network analysis and resonator. And a part of, in the assignment, we also solved some waveguide problem, right? So it will be into two parts, just like last test, part 1 and part 2. Numerical, which is related to assignment, last assignment, and conceptual. And one more announcement. So we'll be having one test for your practical class, and most probably it will be on 21st of October. So next week, this time. So we have to sacrifice a theory class for that, or maybe we can cover half an hour and then we will go for the test. So the syllabus for your practical test, MCQ type again, that is all simulation part. So you should learn HFSS, you should go through its manual, and also the theory part and the design part for all the I think we have only 3 sets of design problems. Okay, so it will be on 21st. So the time and duration of test I will announce in next class tomorrow. Okay, let's stop it here. Thank you all.